Welcome to the Body Smart Podcast, where we remove roadblocks to fitness and health to empower you to master your health habits. We help you become Body Smart.
Hello and welcome to the Body Smart Podcast. We're excited to have you on here. I've got a very special guest here today. So Jeremy Tolman of Ogden Running Company. Excited to have him in and excited to have Ogden Running Company here in the community. Really pumped to have a local running shop that is here to serve the running community here in the Ogden area. So
yeah, super excited to be here.
Yeah, it's it's always fun to have like that local shop where you can go and hang out, and there's you're right on the trailhead, so you can hit runs from there, and It's just great. So excited to have somebody there that we can go and enjoy and support and all those things. So I'm pumped to be able to get back into the running shops again. So
yeah, it's good. It's good to be there. It's the best location, really. I mean,
it's right there.
Well, for me, I like trails and things like that. So it'd be nice if you like right next to Rainbow Gardens or something like that. So
right.
you can do the trails.
That would be nice.
But people like the roads, and it's good diversity there. It's only a couple miles to the trails anywhere from the shop. So
right, and there's a trail right from there. That's one of the things that I love about Ogden is they've made it such an accessible city as far as running and biking and stuff like that. Like. Really is pretty well set up for an active lifestyle. So
agreed.
Yeah, Ogden's a great place for a running brand. So excited that you're there. So we want to kind of get an update on how things are going with the shop, and then also kind of introduce who you are and your kind of running career, when you got started and all those things. So I guess tell us the story about you as well as Ogden Running Company.
Yeah. So I'm from Vernal, Utah, actually a little town outside of Vernal called Jensen. So
yeah.
The
Tiny
graduate.
little town.
Yeah. 500 people. We had a gas station. That gas station closed down about 5 years ago, so we have nothing there. So
yeah.
You have to go to town, which is Vernal. And so graduated from Uinta High School. I was a 3-time state champion in the mile, what was it called? It's not the distance medley. It's just the medley relay, and then the 800. But then got kind of a developmental scholarship to Weber State University here.
Nice.
And Chick Hislop always was good about picking a kid or two from a smaller school.
Right.
And then trying to develop them up. And I didn't have any coaching in high school, and so
Sure.
we went out and played ultimate frisbee for an hour. That was kind of our speed work.
That was your track workout.
Yeah, but as soon as I got some good direction and things, I really took to the steeplechase my freshman year, and so I ended up winning the junior national championships in 1996 in steeple.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Got to go represent the U.S. In Sydney, Australia that year.
Oh, that's so cool.
So yeah, we spent a couple weeks in Sydney. It was awesome.
That is awesome. What a cool experience.
Yeah.
As a young person to get to see the world that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a completely different culture, completely different environment. I mean, we ran from our hotel to the Sydney Opera House and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just really perused a lot, and got a chance to really have some good relationships with people that were on my team that ended up being Olympians. There was Michael Stember and the Hauser twins that they all went to Stanford. They all eventually made Olympic teams, and just a number of really cool people that I got a chance to get to know, and we kind of kept in touch throughout the collegiate career. But I left right after that on a 2-year LDS mission, and then came back, and a lot of these guys were kind of towards the tail end of their college careers, and so.
Right.
But once I got back, it took a little bit of time to kind of get in shape again. But
yeah, it does take a little time to get there, right?
By the year 2000, I had made an Olympic trials qualifier in the steeple, so
that's awesome.
I got to go compete at the Olympic trials, but didn't quite have the day that I wanted that particular day.
Sure. Well, it requires you to be such an all-around athlete. The steeplechase, that's a tough event because there's so many factors to it, right?
Yeah. So, but I'd redshirted that outdoor season just because coach had a lot of people. And he didn't honestly expect me to be that good that soon.
Sure.
And so I just popped some really good times, and so he really started kind of putting the workouts and things in me, which ended up burning me out a little bit by the time the Olympic trials came around. So
tried to catch up too quick there at the end. Yeah, darn it.
But I took some time off, and then in 2001. A teammate of mine, Joel Atwater, and when I got back from my mission, Joel Atwater was this skinny little punk freshman that was All-American in the 1500 as a freshman.
Wow.
When they had it at Boise State. And so I was like, who the heck is this kid? And he ran at Fremont. He's a local kid. And so I wanted to get up on his level. So I worked really hard to get up on his level. And both of us kind of pushed each other there and got on each other's level and really just had a good teammate to really push each other. And then in 2001, both him and I, we went to Bozeman, Montana. They had this dumpy little indoor track at Montana State that they called the Miracle Track for some reason. It just looked like a piece of
dirt.
Yeah, but it was this nice bouncy track, and both Joel ran 4:02.5 and I ran 4:03 something, which altitude converted to 3:58 and 3:59 in the mile. Yeah, which was at that time the second, third fastest time in the country, and so. We both went to NCAA indoor national championships. We both made the final, but we'd cut the flu like the week before, and so we didn't have as good as a day. But
just not enough gas in the tank. Yeah, still recovering maybe a little, or
we both made the final. I was sixth.
Awesome.
I was sixth, and he was 10th, which were both All-American, and so
that's amazing.
That was
awesome.
Fun.
Yeah, that's way fun.
And then in 2000 or the outdoor season, I really kind of had a breakout season in the steeplechase, and going into nationals, I made a qualifier in the national meet, and there wasn't really any clear favorite, and so going into a mile in, I took the lead of the race and really tried to push the middle 2 laps as much as I could. And then with 600 to go, I made just kind of a mental lapse and went from first place to 10th place.
Oh, shoot.
In 200 meters.
Oh.
And I had to drop out the back and hit the gas and go around everybody. And I ran out of gas to catch the first place guy, but I ended up second that year. So
that's awesome.
And the guy that beat me broke the American record in the steeplechase like 4 years later. So Daniel Lincoln. So anyway, that was kind of a breakout. And then, my senior year was 2002. Added a couple more, All-American status in the 3,000 meters and the mile. I was 4th in the mile indoors and 8th in 3,000. I mean, I was 10th. But those 2 races were an hour apart, so it was good.
That's brutal. Yeah, especially for the longer distance races. That's tough. Yeah, that's tough to fully recover by then.
But that, as far as Big Sky, I set the Big Sky Conference record in the mile,
nice.
And. Just had a really good, fun career that way.
That's awesome.
Ended up my senior year really, gassing out as far as not enough in the tank by June, and the national meet was in Baton Rouge at LSU that year in June, and it was like, June in the South.
In the South, yeah.
95 degrees and 1,000,000% humidity. Just really hot and humid.
People always say, "Oh yeah, but you'll be at sea level." It's like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Humidity zaps all of that.
Yeah. And I went into that race ranked second in the country and in the steeplechase, and really expected to perform at a great level, and I just didn't have anything in the tank, and then with it being as hot and humid as it was, I just wasn't prepared for it. I felt like I had a plastic bag over my whole body and went out and tried to run. It just didn't work. So I think I was 10th that year too. Yeah. So, but didn't really. But I was tired.
Hard to train for that in the altitude of Utah.
Yeah.
Right. Like it doesn't. The cold dry does not prepare you for hot humid. Right.
Yeah. And then. After I graduated, I got a degree in health administration from Weber State, and then I moved.
Oh, really?
I moved to Vancouver, Washington for 3 years, continued to run, tried to make an Olympic trials qualifier in 2004, but ended up getting, as a career, as a long-term care administrator, so I ran nursing homes for 20 years.
That's it. I got my same degree in undergrad. I did health admin. Yeah.
So, and then, we were in Vancouver for 3 years, then we moved to Eugene, Oregon for 10 years. So we were right there in Track 10 USA for 10 years.
I was going to say, that's the mecca, right, for track athletes. So that's awesome.
And that's where I got into ultramarathoning. And so, and that was 2008, 2009. Ran my first 50K, and since then I've done 30 plus ultramarathons, up to a couple 100-milers, a number of 50-milers, and just a number of marathons. My marathon PR is like 2:37 at the top of Utah Marathon here. So, but overall, just enjoy running, and so that's like that's always been my MO. Is like that's my therapy. That's my kind of time to get out and just like
totally
recenter. And it's I know if I've had a bad day at work, or if I come home, my wife's like, "Yeah, you're a bear. Go out and go running." Even if I just get 30 minutes in, I usually come back and I'm like recentered. And so
Yeah.
So when we moved back, after we lived in Eugene for 10 years, we moved to Spokane, where I was a multi-facility operator, kind of a regional director for a company, and then COVID hit, and healthcare was hard enough.
Yeah.
Before COVID, and especially with nursing facilities.
Oh,
and then it became really impossible to staff any of the buildings. Like, there was one day I was working as a CNA for 16 hours on a Saturday in the COVID wing, and other day I was passing trays, other days I was in the kitchen like cooking food.
Right.
It just became too much. I was working 80 hours a week, and
right, and doing roles that weren't your role, like it didn't allow you to do your primary role. So
yeah,
always frustrated, always behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's unfortunately where I ran the lease, because I was working 80 hours a week and just didn't have that lease, and so my weight ballooned. I'd finished a master's program before that too, and so it just the work-life balance just wasn't there, and so I ended up quitting and took a job with a physicians group for a little while, the last couple of years, and then we moved back here with the idea of opening a physician's practice with the company that I was in. And anyway, just they ended up taking on a competitor up in the Seattle-Tacoma area, which was my main market. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so long story short, because I needed to do more work, and they wanted me back there. And so I decided to quit that job, and it just kind of came at the perfect timing when Utah Running Shop, they had some things happen where they had to close.
COVID hit them so hard.
Correct.
Yeah. Feel so bad for those guys, but
my daughter and son-in-law actually worked for Utah Running Shop before, and so we were talking. It was kind of a funny story. 2 weeks before the owners announced that they were closing the store, we'd stay up till midnight, like talking about, we should just buy the store, and we should like do this, and this is what we do. Oh, this would be so cool. Let's do this. You know what we could do? We could do events management. We could. And so we just kind of had this brainstorming session this one night, and then 2 weeks later he announced that he was closing the store, and I was like, so I immediately called him. I ran with Ken and Janae in college as well, and so I knew them pretty well, and I just I wanted to get the landlord's number and assume the lease, and just so we took over the lease in kind of mid-May, did a build out over the summer, and it's been a very interesting process trying to just understand how to start a small business.
Right.
There's no real book out there that tells you exactly how to do it, and
right, especially retail, where you have to get all those contracts with the different shoe companies and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a tricky business. But
so it's been really fun. So we've kind of been through the whole process. Just we've kind of been not really open for business, but people do come in, and I've had some shoes available, and if I have shoes in their size and things, then don't step on any nails, but like, pardon that mess over there, pardon the flooring over there.
Right.
It's been fun, just kind of meeting the needs of each individual person, and putting some comfortable shoes on their feet, and seeing the smile on their face, really, on when they have a comfortable pair of shoes that they finally like put on, the difference that it makes with the crappy Walmart shoes or whatever that they've been running in.
Oh, somebody said that to me the other day, like, well, I tried, I went to this one place and they recommended this shoe, and I was okay with it, but whatever, and got a few miles in and didn't really work, and so then I just went to Walmart and picked up a pair of shoes, and I was just like, oh no, and they were upstairs getting new inserts from Perfect Feet, which, if you're gonna go get inserts, it's a great place to go. Mm-hmm. But I was like, it may be the Walmart shoes. That's what I was thinking in my head.
Yeah.
But that's a really common thing, that people don't value the quality of a shoe, and how getting like a good fit and a good variety of shoes really is so important. Mm-hmm. And I preach that all the time, that I actually recommend like that you wear a different shoe for every different type of running you're gonna do, and like, I try not to wear, because I kind of have a shoe problem where I have a lot of shoes. I try not to wear the same shoe in the same week even with running, and so that my feet always have a different experience, so that they stay healthy. Mm-hmm. Versus like, this is that one perfect fit. Because the repetitive nature of running, where you're taking thousands and thousands of steps, wearing that one shoe just can increase your likelihood of injury, because you're putting so much repetitive load.
Right.
So I'm a big believer that people should own like 10 pairs of running shoes. So so I think going in there to be able to find like the right fit, something that feels comfortable, that feels great, and then a few of those is honestly the best thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. And people do balk a lot at the price of shoes.
Yeah.
And like shoes, like anything else, have gone up in price.
Yeah. They're
and
expensive now. Yeah.
And it's hard to get shoes. The distributors are way far behind. Some of the major brands are really far behind.
Yeah.
And so they want to bring shoes in, and I want to buy shoes and stuff from them, but it's going to be a little while to get some of those shoes in.
I know it's always frustrating with the supply chain issues ever since COVID has been a nightmare.
Yeah.
I know some of the brands, especially some of the most popular brands, have had some of the hardest issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's tough.
And we'll get them in. It's just going to take a little while. But the brands that we have have been really, really good.
Yeah.
Kraft, Topo, Asics, and Dynafit are some of the kind of more not so well known brands. But Topo Athletic it makes a great shoe, and it's been by far our best seller. It's kind of takes a Hoka and a Ultra, and Ultra is the other brand that we have in, and kind of mixes it together. Has a shoe with a little bit of a heel on it, but has a foot shaped toe box to it too. So,
it's interesting because it has a little bit more structure to it than like most of your Ultras are very like flexible and whatnot, and so. It has a little bit more body to it, a little bit more structure to it, so it's maybe a little more supportive and things like that. Yeah, Topo is an interesting brand. I kind of see the value in every brand. Every brand has their thing, and many of the like kind of the more common running brands like your Brooks and Saucony and Asics and Mizuno and whatever, they all have very similar. Some of those older brands, I guess, have very similar fits to them or other things like that, and so. It's fun to see some of these newer brands pop up like Topo and Dynafit and Hoka, even Ultra, because they provide something so different into the market that wasn't there before. And so it's kind of been fun to see shoes get reinvented with kind of finding different styles for different types of running, different types of feet, and things like that. So yeah,
I agree, and it's been super fun just to talk running with people. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a guy that came into the shop last night. I ended up talking to him for over an hour just about he helped pace. Well, he ran most of Wasatch 100, but he was dealing with some issues as well, and so. Me being a big trail rat, I love talking to people about trail running and just anything and everything. But there's people that walk in and talk about nutrition with further 100 milers. There's a guy that came in yesterday as well that had just ran the Not Your Grandma's Marathon down in Provo.
Yeah.
And just kind of shared his experience on like bunking in the middle of it. He had to lay down and like take a nap because it was really hard. It was hot and all of that. So anyway, people come in and just share their experiences, and then I get to kind of be a little bit of a doctor and kind of diagnose what I think maybe happened with their nutrition or with their feet, or if people come in like with blister problems and things. There's different products that we can use, different socks that we can use to really try, and then people come back and tell me about it, and they're like, "This worked great," or "This didn't work. Oh, let's try this." And so it's a little healthcare-esque.
Yeah, totally.
That you diagnose things and just kind of try to find the right gear that fits the same thing. As much as we don't like to admit it, healthcare is more trial and error than anything.
Totally.
So you go to a doc and they're just like, well, I think it might be, CHF or COPD or, and so they try, a drug regimen. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then they try something else.
It's called practice for a reason.
Exactly.
Right. No, totally. And that's, I think the ability to intervene and keep somebody healthy, because honestly, that's the right end of healthcare. Our healthcare system is so backwards in that we wait until somebody's mortally wounded or ill before we intervene, when it's like, maybe if we got them the right pair of shoes and the right pair of socks so that they didn't get blisters, their feet felt great, their knees felt great, they could keep running and stay in shape, then they would never get those big, you'd never have the stroke or the heart disease or the whatever if you could just stay fit.
Yeah. And it would be awesome, and I know a lot of our healthcare industry is ran by whatever the insurance company pays or doesn't pay.
Right.
And so if you get insurance companies to like cover a gym membership or, a pair of shoes or something that's actually preventative medicine, you'd see people that would use it more and then be a lot more fit, theoretically.
Yeah.
The main thing
It wouldn't be a barrier.
Correct.
Right.
But the main thing is Americans want to do it in the first place.
Right.
And we are a very lazy nation.
Yeah.
And if you can't, eat wings and drink a Mountain Dew while you're watching football, it's not worth it, really. And so it's
right.
We're kind of a pill-popping nation that need kind of an easy fix for our ankle hurting or our beer belly or whatever else.
Well, we've been conditioned that way for sure to think that the answer is in a pill. Like, weight loss is in a pill or a drug or whatever versus like, no, just lead a healthy lifestyle and eventually that will lead to a healthy body weight. But it's a harder message to get out there. And so, we've tried to pivot that message more towards like, what can you do? Not about weight loss so much, not about even healthy living as much as it is like, can you do all the things that you want to do? Mm-hmm. And if not, like, then there's something wrong with your health and we need to make a change. And so, like, let's help you be able to live the kind of life and lifestyle that you want to live. Mm-hmm. And I think, shoes are so foundational to that. If you can, I always tell people, so when I was in the running shop with Utah Running, I'd go and do those free screenings and stuff all the time. And that was one of the messages I tell people. I was like, I know they seem expensive, right? Paying $120 for a pair of shoes is expensive. But honestly, for the cost of one x-ray or one MRI, you can buy 6 or 7, 8, 10 pairs of shoes. Right. For the cost of one MRI, you can buy like a whole, 2 years worth of shoes. Yep. So would you rather buy the variety of shoes and not have to need the MRI, or would you, bulk at the price of that one shoe, go to Walmart, buy a shoe, and then need the MRI?
Yeah.
To me, that's a pretty simple equation. I'd much rather have a bunch of shoes that I feel good in, feel like I look good in, and I can enjoy than an MRI that just brings you nothing but misery, and you hear how the wrinkles on the inside of your body are manifesting themselves. That's basically what an MRI tells you. Is that you're getting wrinkles on the inside too.
Well, but if you ask 10 people, you're going to have 5 people that probably say, yeah, the MRI sounds great. My insurance covers half of it or something. And so,
it's true.
It's so true. So stupid that our medicine is not preventative at all. It's not proactive. It's none of that. And so that's one thing I really hope to create more of a footprint within our store, not just putting shoes on people's feet, but actually teaching people how to be healthy.
Right.
We've kind of talked a little bit about, what Dr. Larson does with Orange MD too.
Yeah.
Is really trying to make healthcare a lot more accessible for a reasonable cost.
Right. So
people could actually come in and use their healthcare and do labs more frequently and kind of just see what their levels and things are like. And as they get healthy and maybe if weight loss is an issue or just consistency in getting working out and how that adjusts your levels and things. I mean, our healthcare insurance and things usually only covers really one wellness visit a year and one labs per year.
Yeah.
And people can fluctuate quite up and down. And if there's any kind of like screenings for cancer or whatever, some cancers can form pretty quickly and like really aggressively expand.
Or you can have a fairly rapid health downturn. Quickly you get an injury that kind of sidelines you for a bit, and your health can really change drastically fairly quickly. And so having accessible healthcare. I love what he's doing because he's making it more accessible and kind of demystifying like the barrier between patient and physician, right? He's longer visits, taking care of his patients, like really focusing on them. It's great. I love that. So that's kind of what we've tried to do as our brand, is really promote just health and wellness within the community even. And that's why we love, partnering up with awesome running shops like you guys so that we can like promote healthy lifestyles within our community instead of just wait till you get sick and then rehab it. So we do very little post-operative care and things like that. Because my whole idea is let's keep you from needing the surgery in the first place. And honestly, when you compare most like surgeries and surgical techniques to rehab, they actually do really poorly. In fact, when you compare most arthroscopic surgeries, injections, things like that, to sham injections, sham arthroscopic surgeries, so rotator cuff repair versus sham rotator cuff repair, where they just cut you open and sew it back shut, same outcomes.
Interesting.
So it has more to do with the fact that you just took it easy for a while because you got cut open than it does like what the surgeon actually did. The rehab that you do afterward is where they actually got better. And so long-term outcomes actually are poor or worse with the surgery because you're more likely to need another surgery. It's like meniscus repair, even ACL. We're one of the only countries that still does meniscus repairs, ACL repairs, because most people do just fine if they rehab it. If they get it strong enough and keep moving, they do just fine. And so, it's one of those things where our healthcare system, that's how we make money, is by doing procedures. And it kind of funds the machine. And so, unfortunately, we're incentivized to keep doing some of those things, when really, if we just led a healthy lifestyle, a lot of that wouldn't be an issue. And even if we do get those injuries from the active lifestyle, which can happen, right? You step in a pothole, you break your ankle, happens. But we would recover much more quickly and do so in a way that required less surgery, which requires future surgeries. And our attitude about recovery would be less of rest it, let it heal, and then starting over. And we'd have more of an active recovery mentality that got us back on the road faster and kept us healthier long term.
And that'll pay huge dividends later in life. Again, with my experience, I took care of primarily the geriatric population. And so, you'd have pretty chronically sick people who had CHF, COPD, diabetes, type 2 diabetes was like everybody had type 2 diabetes. And things. And it was mostly caused by just poor lifestyle. They didn't take care of themselves early in life, and then they didn't form good habits. And so once they got older and they retired and didn't have other healthy things they wanted to do, they basically just found a good comfy chair and grabbed the remote. Got the TV dinners, and that's pretty much what life was about. And then chain smoked and drank, or whatever. And so
Matlock at 9 a.m. was like big deal. You got to hit Matlock.
And then it's just the routines and things. The different generations, of course, are interesting.
Totally.
The traditional generation, they definitely liked their Wheel of Fortune, their Family Feud in the mornings. And we had to have, and Price is Right, of course.
Price is Right.
We had to have everything on.
That was gospel.
Yeah, you couldn't like plan like if somebody would come in with a knee replacement or a hip replacement or some kind of fracture, and PT had to come work with them in the morning. They couldn't do it during Price is Right or other things.
So totally.
It was pretty funny. But.
It was. I worked briefly at a nursing home before I was a PT, but gaining experience. And you're right. Like it was. Like the TV schedule ran the show as much as anything else. It's like more than meals even. People were like, I'll go late to lunch, but I won't miss Price is Right was one of the biggest.
So I still like taking care of geriatrics. And so one thing I've kind of been experimenting with also with the store is kind of doing home health shoes. So going out, and I did this just last week, is a gal called into the store, and her husband is mainly wheelchair bound, but needs a good pair of shoes, but it's hard for them to get into the store. And so I took probably 10 pairs of shoes and went out to their home and fitted him with a pair of shoes. And
that's awesome.
He picked one that was comfortable, and I got a chance to chat with him about this and that and whatever, because the traditionalists also love to talk. And so he had every story under the sun, and look at this, look at that, look at that, and all the pictures in his home. And I love doing that. It's stuff I miss, too.
Totally. That's awesome, because that's how you build a community, honestly.
And that's a big part of just my philosophy, not just with the store, but any businesses in communities is built on relationships. So if you come in and you try on 20 pairs of shoes and you walk out with 0 pairs of shoes, that's fine with me. Our main thing is we want customers to have an experience. Like they're walking in. Most of my employees are part of my family. So I have 4 daughters, and so two of them work at the store. My oldest and my second oldest work at the store, and we employ runners. I mean, we have two other guys that are on the Weaver State track team. One that just graduated from Weaver High, and so that's the big thing that's going to set us apart with other stores in the areas. We employ runners that know running and can recommend specific things due to their experience.
Yeah.
And we want to support local community business. I've tried to keep everything that I do local.
Yeah.
Bigfoot Graphics did our logo, which I'm super happy with our logo.
Yeah,
it has been Tolman, and I mean, just everything that I wanted in Oregon. It's very symbolic of Ogden.
Yeah.
And so, and we use all local communities. I mean, I love these guys.
The
Ogden Made. I love Ogden Made.
They make some cool stuff.
Yeah, and so we want to carry stuff that our community enjoys and wants and all of that. And so we want to keep it as much as we can local. And so we obviously do different group runs and things to kind of encourage people to come in and just have camaraderie. We have a couple of guys, Nick and Sean, show up every single Monday. They're our regulars that show up even before with Utah Running. They were kind of our regulars. And there's another group that meets on Tuesdays at 6:30. Yeah. Molly, I just met them on Molly Bitton, I think is her name.
Right, the Pub Runners group. And
the Pub Runners is on Thursday nights, which I'm a big supporter of them too. I love any community.
Well, now you got some great restaurants just across the way there. Yeah, it's great.
So we're going to do different, just fun stuff from the store. We might just go on a run and tailgate in the parking lot, or I have a TV with I have just a little USB. It's actually an HDMI thumbstick that has every Nintendo game known to man, and I got a couch and things in there, so it's just a hangout zone. Yeah, people can sit there and play Nintendo. Thought about getting a disco ball or something in there, so I mean we could go and dance or something after running, and with a bunch of sweaty runners. I mean I don't know if people want to do that, but just make it fun. Yeah. So, and those are kind of just some of the things we want to do, just get to know people in the community. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that community feel is so important. So. It just allows people to bond and to stay healthy. It's all about again, what can you do? More than weight on the scale or all those other things. It's can you do the things you want to do and be who you want to be? And if so, that really is the best measure of health that you can have. And so promoting a lifestyle that supports you doing what you want to do. And I believe that running is foundational to that for people. Strength training and lifting is good and very helpful and is a necessary part of the whole package. But I feel like running, for so many reasons, if you can run, you can do just about everything else. You can get up off the floor, you can hike, you can bike and swim at least to some degree. You have that base of conditioning where really any activity is within reach. And so you might have to train for specific things, but you really can do just about anything if you have that base. And running is just kind of that total body activity that prepares you for everything. And so that's part of why we've picked running at Body Smart as one of the things that we really focus on, because it's so foundational to the healthy lifestyle. You don't have to consider yourself to be a runner even necessarily to run regularly. That's one of the things that we found by visiting some of the running shops and hanging out there so much, is the average person that came in ran regularly but didn't necessarily consider themselves to be a runner. I was fascinated by that. Well, no, I'm not really a runner, but I've run a few marathons, or I've done this and that and the other and whatnot, but I run because I feel better. It's my mental health, like you mentioned. It's all these things, but they don't necessarily think of themselves as a runner that runs races all the time or that does this and that. They just run because they feel better, it keeps them healthy, and they enjoy it. But I'm not necessarily a runner. I found that fascinating. And so for us, that's more of what it's about, is just creating that foundation to your health.
And there's probably about half the people that come in that are walkers, or they're just looking for something to keep their feet happy while they're out hiking. Totally, yeah. And so trail running shoes are great for hikers as well. I mean, we do have some high tops and things if people want high tops, but I really like the low tops, and the trail running shoes are great. I do too, yeah. And so we have a lot of people that come in that are just nurses at the hospital that want a comfortable pair of shoes because they're walking around on concrete all day long. Yep. And so there's lots of different shoes that I can recommend that will last them for a long period of time. And it's one thing I tried to spoil my nurses and CNAs as much as I could when I was an administrator. Yeah. Because they were the lifeblood of my facility. Oh, totally. They ran the show. Exactly. Yeah. So I just kind of helped pay their, sign their paychecks and kind of gave them coffee and chocolate and kept them going and stayed out of their way. But you got to keep their feet happy for them to want to continue to work there because they can. I mean, now there's so much demand everywhere.
So much demand.
And there's
COVID rocked the nursing industry.
Yeah. And there's pretty much nurses can get paid whatever the heck they want, and so if you're not taking care of them, they're going to go and work at a competitor.
Yeah. No. Which I guess is great for the nursing industry in some ways, but it's been hard for facilities. I know that's been a tough thing, and so those types of market changes. It's interesting what that does, but I guess the take home message there is try to stay out of nursing facilities by staying healthy.
Nobody. Yeah. That's the stereotype. Is nobody wants to go to a nursing home ever. Right. So. You hear every stereotype under the sun. Sure. That's where people are sent to die. Those are stinky, nasty, smelly places, which some of them are.
Some of them are, yeah.
And some of them are very, very good places, and they take really good care of people, good quality of care, good quality of life. They try to promote everything for, but there's a few of them that just still give the industry a really bad name.
Yeah. Well, and it's just a tough time of life where things are changing and aren't going to stay the same. And so it's, it's a necessary thing to help people kind of gently usher them onto the next thing, right?
Yeah.
But there are definitely some that are better than others at doing so. Mm-hmm. Leading a healthy lifestyle can set that up to where even that's not miserable, right? That's really what we're trying to be all about, and that's why we love partnering with people like you. Is promoting that healthy, active lifestyle for the rest of forever.
Yeah.
So,
and you just got to start. People just have to start. They don't have to do anything huge, but just go out and walk half mile or something, and then build up.
Right.
And that's where people just need to have like a regiment, and we're going to add some coaching and stuff in. Obviously, we have a gal, Melody Bateman, that used to work with. That she does some coaching. We want to get nutrition on board. Just different kind of coaching, either CrossFit. We're going to partner with CrossFits in town, also with different gyms, and just really try to bring that community together to where we can teach people how to just get started.
Perfect.
And once they get started, then hopefully they get a little more addicted, because running is addicting.
Yeah.
People don't think, because running is usually other sports punishment.
Right.
So you do something wrong, you'll run a lap,
right.
whatever. And football, and I grew up playing football and basketball and stuff. I didn't even get to running until I was a junior, but we definitely want to change that stereotype there. The running's hard. Running's really easy.
Right.
You don't have to have a ton of gear. You just need a good comfortable pair of shoes, some shorts, whatever, and just get moving.
Yeah. And just start. I love that concept of just starting where you're at and then build on that. But it doesn't, I think, and that was always for me growing up, what I was taught by sports of running was that you had to go as hard as you can, go till you puke. Mm-hmm. That was what running was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And when I realized, I was on a run with my wife, that she was marathon training, and it was like an 8-mile run. She's like, "How can you run 8 miles with me when you never run?" And I'm like, "Well, if you go this slow, I can run 8 miles if you go this slow." Well, she's like, "Well, what do you think running is? You don't have to go as hard as you can every single run." Mm-hmm. I was like, "Oh, all right." And so then I started trying some trail runs and stuff because I enjoyed being in the mountains. Like, oh, well, if I just run whatever feels comfortable instead of I can run this fast, so I'm going to. Mm-hmm. I just started running whatever felt comfortable on that day. I was like, oh, this actually is pretty awesome. Yeah. I quite enjoy this. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that start where you're at and build on that is really such a great message. Mm-hmm.
And it can get to the point where it's enjoyable. I know people will always tell us, how do you run that much?
Wow.
It's so bad. But, you can get to that point if you just start slow and all of that. And, it's such a healthy thing to do, everything in moderation, really, because obviously us idiots that run 100-milers and things like that, you can push.
You can overdo it,
sure. And then you get injured, and then you're chronically injured, and then you're frustrated, and then your mental health deteriorates, and blah,
Right.
But you've probably heard this quote is, exercise is the best antidepressant.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And so, mental health, again, working in the nursing home industry, there's a lot of mental health problems. There's mental health problems everywhere.
Yeah.
But if people just consistently got out and exercised and just got their blood flowing, there'd be a lot less pill popping for antidepressants. Yeah. Granted, that's a generalized statement. I know there's a lot of people that do suffer genetically and things from mental health and need that help. But ultimately, exercise always helps. Yeah. And so just getting people out and smelling the fresh air and just just getting out.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think it would reduce a lot of our stressors and things that drive us towards poor mental health and all kinds of things. We totally agree. So there's a research study where they go through like all the different brain chemicals and how running affects them, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So it's in a big table that we have. And it's like, pretty much everything that affects our brain, our mood, our hormone regulation, blah, 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 is all positively affected by running. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what it can do. Mm-hmm. So there's the take-home message, right? Is get out there, start where you're at, start running, buy lots of shoes so that you can stay healthy, keep your feet happy, because if your feet are happy, then everything else goes pretty well with your run. And be able to enjoy it and go out there and support local awesome business owners like Jeremy and his family that run Ogden Running Company. So awesome stuff. If somebody wants to reach out, how do they get a hold of Ogden Running Company, and how do they follow your journey? Yeah,
so we're on Facebook, Instagram. I'm working on a website right now, so it can be a basic website.
Sure.
But just come into the store. I mean, our phone number's on Google. Yeah. I almost said the phone book, and I'm like, does anybody have a phone book anymore? So
I don't think so.
Just Google us. Yeah. It's 385-289-2900 is our phone number, and then I have business cards and different things made here pretty soon, but just my email is jeremytolman@ogdenrunco.com. So
perfect.
If you need to get a hold of me that way. But yeah, we're available to kind of help with anything and everything.
Sweet.
Running related.
So don't hesitate to reach out, follow them on Instagram and all those things.
Yep.
And we look forward to seeing you in the shop.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yep.
Thanks for listening to the Body Smart podcast. Join us in the Body Smart community on Facebook to share your successes or ask a question for our next episode. Now get out there and take the next step toward living your active lifestyle.